Bosco?
I'll just copy and paste the agenda.
Oh, I left my copy somewhere. I'll be right back.
How are you doing, Bosco? Hi, Neil. So Christian said he could join part of the meeting. Hi, Martin.
Oh, I've got a hard stop. I really need to stop at 5 to 10 to 4. I got an important meeting at 4. So
okay. So I had one item labeled with you, which was the linear Laos, Neil.
But I think that the answer to let's deal with that early on. It's the answer's simple, given what Martin's told us.
Good. Yeah.
Well, the comment answer is simple.
We need to take some action on that.
Well, actually, it turns out. Well, let's wait till the meeting. There's no point in repeating it. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Good. So let's shift that ahead in the agenda. Is there anything else to add to the agenda? And as always, if we don't get time to go through it all, we can postpone some items. So we'll let some items fall off to next week. Martin, anything from your side?
No. Nothing from my side.
Okay. So we assume life is perfect, everything is sunny.
It is?
That's fantastic.
If only.
May all meetings be short ones.
This is where you play the "Everything is Awesome" from the Lego Movie music. Sorry.
So I couldn't work out from Christian's message whether he was going to join late or whether he had to leave early. But,
well, why don't we? We're not quorate, so why don't we just get started anyway?
I would suggest we do that. So, Bosco, actions arising from the last meeting.
Yeah, just give me a sec. Okay, this was done. We had that. It's on the agenda, so we can move on anyway. Forwarded to Leandros. Okay.
So we're waiting on his review.
Wait for Leandros to respond.
Yes, interesting communication links. I never got it, to be honest, but it seems that our proposals are coming true. We can cover that on the agenda. Christian, not here, so I don't know. We had a tweet. You reached out to Jeff, right, Kevin?
I've reached out to him. He's going to attend next week's meeting. So
yes, exactly.
What I'm going to propose is we dedicate, say, 30 minutes of the meeting to discussion of both hard fork scope, so the plans that IO has, but also linear layouts.
From my point of view,
I'll give them a heads up before we do that.
Outstanding action. This is for post-quantum cryptography.
And circulated the response and added to the agenda for this week.
Okay, Neil and Ryan. Okay, you two guys collaborating on visual.
We haven't done it, but I'm going to put it on my board of things to do. Okay, this is my board of things to do. So
this is a good proof it's going to get done. When you see it on the paper, it's something rather than just visual thinking. Okay.
Yeah, and I can also provide some input to that, Bosco. I've just not had time to do it this week. It's been too busy. Sorry, Ryan, you were going to say?
No, I was saying, is this dependency graph? Is that coming out of the form that Tex put together?
It really depends. It can come from different sources, so it really depends who owns it, who has the ownership of drafting it.
All I'm asking for is make a visual, please, somebody. Right, that's all I'm asking for that one. But I do know that me and Ryan need to talk about K equals 1,002, which is what this is what's going on here.
Gotcha.
Okay, so two different things. One is the hard fork, and one is K equals 1,000. These are two separate things. So for the hard fork, we'll come back to the Dijkstra era planning later. We do have good ideas of what is required. This is not something we've never done before, so we do know what all the events are, but we just need to articulate this so that people know what all the dependencies are. So first step is just to identify all the things that have to be done. Then we can work out a dependency graph. But these things, we had something for Chang that we did. We created a very detailed one for Chang, for example. Great.
Okay,
You
we
ready?
can move on to the agenda unless Tex wants to jump in right now on the dependency thing. Tex, you're on mute.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I created that form under the technical steering committee, kind of where the hard fork working group lives. So I would kind of stop talking about who owns it and just say we own it, right? And I'll provide the help from Intersect alongside Bosco as the secretary. But you as TSC own that, and let's proliferate that. And again, I've asked to put it out there. Maybe I haven't done everything that everyone's expecting of me, but if there's something that needs to change on that form for us to properly track things, I just need to know, and I can update it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only issue is just sheer quantity of things that we're doing, Tex. So, and what I will do is to write down a list of items on a sheet of paper, then try to work out dependencies on a sheet of paper, and then I can pass them on to populate a form. Ryan.
The big remaining challenge I see, and I asked it, I think 2 hard fork working group meetings ago, is that we're still trying to identify what a lot of those constraints and timelines are. So until we're able to get some answers to that, which I haven't seen much, it's going to be a lot of guesswork.
Well, yeah. Okay, so we seem to be having that agenda item now. It's on the agenda.
Yeah,
Well, I don't have the agenda item now. I don't mind, but I have read the most recent hard fork working group timeline, etc. And my opinion, my feedback was this isn't capturing. This is far too optimistic.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's have a proper discussion on that. Okay, so let's move on to the agenda. So Neil has to leave sharply, so we're going to bring the linear layouts discussion item forward. But I suggest we kick off by first of all, I forgot to say this is the Technical Steering Committee meeting of the 22nd of July 2026. So welcome everyone. 4 voting members present, so we are not quorate. So this is for discussion, but not for decision. So first item on the agenda, Van Rossum hard fork. Ryan, do you want to take that?
Yes, we had a successful hard fork. Was it Friday? No, it was Sunday.
Saturday.
Sorry. I can't keep Saturday. Somewhere in there. I can't keep track of what day it is. But yeah, a bunch of us were watching it rolled out. Seems to have worked. There was a little bit of concern at the beginning when no blocks came in for about 10 minutes. I don't think we have identified the root cause of that yet. It sounds like we're wanting to see, waiting for the next epic to turn over, the first epic of the new, not era, but after the hard fork, to see if to ensure that it doesn't happen again, and then we might have to investigate further from there.
Were you able, typically, just having gone through this in the past, typically what you need is an SPO there who's watching the CPU, right? If you could reach out and see if there were CPU bursts at the time of the hard fork, that's really important. We need to find out whether, because as far as I was, were there any ledger? Did the ledger have to rewrite itself?
There were some ledger changes.
Right, so
these were supposedly minor ones.
Well, but the point is, so it sounds like this is okay. I do strongly think you should put this, and you should bring it up. I don't know. We should call this something like the unexpected delay because did someone fail to tell us that the ledger was going to be rewritten?
No.
That's number. The ledger wasn't going to be rewritten, correct?
No, they told us the ledger was going to be rewritten.
They did. Okay.
Nobody found.
Okay, right. So somebody told you the ledger was going to be rewritten, and then we need to classify we need to record for posterity how big the ledger was and how long it took, right? So the next time we do this, we don't have a panic after 10 minutes, right? If we know it's going to be down for 10 minutes, that's fine, right? Okay.
Yeah, I agree, Neil. So I think the analysis that was done before was that we weren't expecting a significant delay due to processing the ledger. So that, I think, was a bit of a surprise. So although the fact that there were some changes was known, significant impact wasn't expected. I reached out to an SPO who raised this with me. He's not provided me with any information.
But we need, because there's two possibilities, right? Well, there's two basic possibilities. One is everything was running like hell, flat out for 10 minutes. The other thing is, for some reason, total connectivity was lost and had to be re-established, right? And we need to distinguish between the two of them, right?
There was some churning with peers after like 3 minutes or 5 minutes or something. If they haven't heard a block, they will churn peers. So that was.
But that's normally that's the expected behavior. What I'm saying is, if it suddenly lost all network connectivity and then had to reestablish from scratch, what you're telling me is we have counter evidence to that argument, in that it stayed up. Then the thing stayed up for 3 minutes, which is 3 to 5 minutes, which is what it's supposed to do. So okay, I'm just saying those are the two possible big headline causes. We've eliminated this one. Therefore, the most likely one is that a slight porky on the cost of rewriting the whole ledger. Right?
The churning of some of the nodes during this kind of events is basically due to that we use randomness in timeouts in chainsync. When we don't receive a header for some time, timeout we will fire, and yeah.
But I mean, as you say, the 3 to 5 minutes and a bit of churn occurring is exactly that defensive feature firing, isn't it?
Yes. So this is expected. Maybe what we changed, what you Neil don't know, is that right now we compute the randomness for each time we land in the state. So it's completely random across the event, not like it used to be a random, but a random timeout per connection.
Oh, it's random per host, random per connection.
It's random per state. So if you end up in like in chainsync, you have the state in which you have.
Oh, I see. That state. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay. But
so that was made so we don't like accumulate. We used to accumulate connections that had very long timeout over time because the shorter ones were lost.
Right, but what I'm saying is that
there was a kind of bias.
Yeah, Marcin, but that particular element of state, they would have been synced at the point of the hard fork. They wouldn't have been in a different mode, consensus mode, would they? Well, almost certainly is what I'm saying. Not saying, right?
They would all be waiting for announcement of a header,
right?
And all
they would have then
make their choice what the timeout is for that state, and then all of them are waiting, and then because this is a random timeout,
but it's
let's
a random
say 30% of the node will go down because the delay was just too large.
Yeah, but that's it. So what we're saying is this was all expected and consistent.
Yeah.
That's all. I think that for this recording, that's what's needed. So Kevin, we do need to make sure what we need to ask the ledger team is why they thought they could say that statement to us, right? That it wouldn't be effectful, and then we need to basically ask them to revisit how they went about that, so that they find out why the misinformation occurred.
If it is misinformation.
If it's well, we're assuming it's, we've eliminated the other possibility. We're starting from there. Let's work out.
Well, there are other possibilities too, but
I can't think of one.
I mean, I'd agree. The ledger.
Well, all I'm saying is that there's two big possibilities, right? I mean, electrons slowing down in the universe is not one I'm willing to
I'm
entertain at this point.
entertaining either.
What I want to say is, I'm not trying to be nasty about this. I'm just trying to say now, if it's the Sherlock Holmes. If the obvious one hasn't fixed, try the next one. If it turns out that's not, but we do need to know that this is a worry for future hard forks. Okay.
Well, so there are three obvious sources of the issue. So one is networking, a change in the networking stack.
Mhm.
Okay. So
I think we just eliminated that one because the timeouts all happened properly.
One is ledger state transitions across a hard fork boundary. That's the one that we think is most likely. And the third one is some change to the consensus algorithm, Neil. Okay. I don't think we can eliminate that one without further information. It seems unlikely based on what we know, but it is possible.
No, because if that, I can't see. Sorry, knowing how the consensus works, I can't see a mechanism by which you just get a timeout for that, right? Is what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is, if the consensus mechanism had failed, the point is, if we look at a few people's logs, right, we will see blocks being. If no blocks are produced by anybody's logs or seen by anybody's logs for a 5+ minutes, because they were and the CPU was high, the smoking gun points at.
If we don't have the evidence.
But I'm just saying, Kevin, I think that the idea that consensus had somehow temporarily failed and then recovered is not one I'm willing to even entertain.
It has in the past, no. We have had.
Oh yeah, but that was only with. But we've always had evidence of it happening.
Yes.
We've never had it not stop.
Well, it didn't stop. Apparently. So what apparently happened was there was a lot of short forking. Yeah.
At this hard fork.
That's what people have claimed to me, but without evidence. Okay. So.
Okay, that's an additional piece of information then. Right?
Yeah, but it's anecdotal, so I don't have concrete. I don't have strong evidence that it does.
But if there's lots of CPU usage and nodes become slow, then short forks are expected.
Yeah. That's a concept, because basically you can't adopt the change. Somebody catches up, sees a fork, tries to adopt it, but the fork is so old they can't affect it, or they can't make progress with it. So I mean, that would be that wouldn't be rule out the presence of short forks doesn't rule out the timing front. Anyway, let's move on. We need to get this right next time.
So yeah, so what the developer team is going to do is to monitor the next epoch to see whether there's a recurrence. If not, it's almost certainly related just to the hard fork transition. Most likely cause, as you're saying, is some ledger state update.
Taking tens of minutes. Okay, move on, folks.
Next time.
Come on, I was having a hand raised for a while, patiently waiting. So first of all, I think you're core. So right now you have Christian and you have 5 of you. In a way that feels that you can make decisions. And the other thing, I want to just briefly steer a pot, but yes, we can continue the conversation later on the hard fork itself, the enactment. I don't know whether any of you have access to the Telegram group, SPO Telegram group. So I saw messages around the hard fork enactment file. We were all waiting. Some of them were reporting of having some high CPU and sudden drop of incoming peers. And then one of them saying, I'm not entirely sure why one of those relays has over 300 incoming connections, but hey, I'm not complaining. Yada, yada. And then it was, they were speculating on the reasons. So I wanted to call out the high CPU usage as big mention. I don't know why or what, but just want to call out.
Okay, so Bosco, correct thing to do here, if you can pass that information on to the developer team, if they don't already.
Yes. I was assuming that somebody was aware of that. So just yes. I was assuming that somebody was aware of that. So just like me, not being a fully technical person. So okay, I will.
But just if you can just pass the information on them, then
Yes, I will.
Great. So moving on to the next item on the agenda, TSC and Intersect budget proposals. So both of them, when I checked earlier, have apparently received about 70% of support from the GRAPs. So that's putting them into the passing level, which is great. So what we will need to do is either we can make one final call out just to gather final votes, because it's still fairly close to the threshold in both cases, so it might be worth doing that, or we can just wait.
I think it'd be nice to say something like, please, thank you for all your votes, and
yeah.
I think it's important, because it's important that we continue to engage, not like, oh, but we're satisfied now, we're walking away, right? Yeah, that's all. And tomorrow's the last day, yes?
Tomorrow is the last day.
Yeah.
And obviously we do when we get the final vote, then obviously we should thank those who voted. Okay,
Yeah.
both proposals are looking promising at this point in time, and that's obviously a relief to Intersect, as well as to us.
Everybody, I should imagine, yes.
So,
but look, it's TSC only this year as a committee, so it's a good thing.
Yeah. So thank to anyone who's watching the recording. Thank you for voting for ours. Thank you for voting for Intersect. Your support is appreciated. Do we want to cover linear layouts and
Let's do that one next quickly. Yeah. So from conversations in the TSC channel, it is my understanding that the linear layouts team has only just seen the thing that you forwarded to them 3 or 4 weeks ago. Is that correct, Marcin?
It's probably a bit more complex than that.
But they are not. They were not. They thought they didn't have any questions to answer until a few days ago.
Yes, but also people were waiting for TST response on the previous report written by the team, and
do they now know that the TSC didn't receive it till last week? That's the point, right?
They do know, but they don't agree that that's what happened, and this can actually be traced in the TSC public channel or the other one. I don't remember, but it was received by the TSC earlier.
So whatever we've received, we've passed on. Martin.
And no, what I'm saying is, what we would have responded to that as part of the normal TSC process whenever we received it, right?
So before we get into the timeline analysis, let's just focus on what needs to be done, Neil and Martin. Right?
So what I'm saying is,
we've got so the status is we passed some questions on to the developer team, the linear layouts team in April. We've got a response to that. The IO is waiting for us to analyze their response. We should do that. I've been too busy in the last week to have a chance to do it myself, but happy to progress that. Hopefully next week will be less busy. There won't be so many things happening. Then the second set of questions that we prepared a few weeks ago, they are now with the technical team, so we're expecting a response to those. Okay, so that's
yes.
Status. Great. Okay.
Yes, and people are working.
So we've got actions on both sides, Martin and Neil, right? One is review what's been passed to us in response to the April questions, and the other is for IO to consider the issues that we summarized a few weeks ago. And we know they were passed on because I passed them on myself and had an acknowledgement from the product lead. So we know that IO has definitely received those. Okay, so let's, we're seeing, as I said, Jeff Watson will attend this meeting next week. So if we can have the summary ready, we can pass it on before then. We can have a discussion. We can prime Jeff to respond to our questions next week. He primarily wants to discuss the Dijkstra era hard fork, but we should take advantage of the fact that we've got him at this time to progress this as well.
I'll have to go back to the minutes and see what was said. Right. Okay, fine. Move on, because that allows me to drop out now as I need to. I'm sorry, when I drop out, you cease to be quoted. In which case, I would say, are there any decisions to make while I'm still here?
Kevin.
One decision that we do need to make, which I promised to put to this group. So last week we discussed the min-pool cost action, and we proceed assertively with that. It's now ready for enactment on preview. The question is, do we submit before we've formally enacted it on preview? Is there any advantage to doing that? Because my inclination is to simply say to the INSEC team, put it on mainnet.
I thought we had an actual formal vote about this last week, and it was sort of 7-1. So why are we revisiting it?
Okay, I wanted to confirm that people were comfortable with that.
Well, you know, I'm not comfortable, but what I'm just saying is it was a decision that was made. I mean, I see no technical reason to overturn it, right?
This is your chance to raise the objections. So I'll give the INSEC team a green light on the min-pool cost, and we'll get that on hopefully today or possibly tomorrow.
Okay.
Brent. Moving ahead. Bosco.
No, I was for some reason Ryan.
Brian.
I was just going to ask, do we need to make a decision on the hard fork scope document that we were asked to review on endorsing it or Neil leaves?
We can do. So the product committee asked us to look at this. So we've got a request from. So Sam has put together a scoping document. So this could be quite a long segment. Yeah.
I realise that, but I read it through. But so I'm actually prepared to answer. I'm prepared to make my feeling here, right, is that actually there's not enough risk analysis and timing analysis for us to make a decision on that document. That document didn't actually capture all of the interdependencies and the risks, right? So therefore, because a lot of the statements in that document were actually around there isn't enough time to do this, there isn't enough time to do this, right? And basically, therefore, what's the decision we're being asked to make?
So I think we should probably leave the detailed discussion to the hard fork working group to thrash out. But what it seems is there's a bit of dissension about. Well, you're getting feedback.
But Bosco, we're hearing your background. Sorry, sir.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So there's a bit of dissent about timing and scope of the next hard fork, and essentially there's pressure to enact a hard fork early. We had this discussion last week, I believe. There's also pressure to include linear layers. So the proposal coming from the product committee is to progress a hard fork in November, but to limit the scope in such a way that it would include preparation for linear layers, but wouldn't include, and for Peras, but wouldn't include either of those items.
So,
which would otherwise be minimal scopes, and that's what we're being asked to support. Now, the position coming from IO, which is going to be presented next week, is almost certainly they would like an early hard fork, and they would like it to include linear layers. Okay, and this may be overly optimistic. This is what the product committee is saying.
okay.
But I think we can have a discussion about that. I'm not sure we have enough information to support either position.
My comment would be, having read that document, right, is that the going for an early preparation requires all of the parameters to be known to be
Yes.
able to be incorporated in that hard fork, and there is no evidence that they are currently all known. Right? If we go for that approach, I'm just saying the risk here is you go for that approach, they come up with parameters. It turns out that's not the total set they need when they come to finally launch it mid-term, right? And then we're in a position that we do need a complete another hard fork anyway, and we wasted all the effort on the first one. So I'm saying the point is
it's not quite like that. What it means is you can't change the parameters.
Well, the point is, yeah. So we would then be in the position of having to force a change midway, with not all the controls and the knobs available to us, right? Which is a whole point. And then we would have arguments about the default settings, which we couldn't change, right? Until another hard fork. So that my thing is, from point of view of managing this change stably over time, that seems like I'm totally confused, because what you're saying is that you are getting the hint from IO that basically they want us to override what the product committee is suggesting to actually do the complete hard fork.
Well, I think it's more that the product committee is overriding what IO is suggesting, Neil. If you're going to.
Well, the product committee is the community asking us for the next steps, right? So surely that's our primary input, right? Right. The secondary input is IO saying they want to do it. They believe they can do it faster, but they haven't convinced the product committee that they can do it faster.
I can't see why we want to go for I can't see why we would go for an earlier hard fork. Anyway.
Well, I'm just saying the product committee has taken a sort of intermediate point. Please tell me if I'm misreading this. IO is saying they can deliver a complete working hard fork in October, November, right? By the way, it was October that was stated in that document.
I would complete in October, yes.
Yes, right. Let me say it right. They are saying that the product committee says let's prepare for it, and what I'm saying is, why? How can we prepare for it safely if we don't have all the parameters?
Yeah, in October, we can track we can backtrack all the.
No, Kevin. Kevin, I'm not trying to second guess what the product committee is doing here. I'm saying this is the information we have been given. Therefore, that's the information we're being asked to do it on. So we're being asked, and what you seem to be conveying here is I'm just saying the product committee is asking us to do that, and my problem is that the product committee is being overly optimistic because of we don't know all the parameters.
Yeah, I don't know why the product committee is being so optimistic. Because as we've been discussing, if you're going to have a HOV, so a November hard fork means putting
an October hard fork. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, but if it was November, you would be putting in the hard fork governance action in October. If it's an October hard fork, you're putting the governance action in September. You need 2 months testing, right? We're already out of time to be able to
I get you mean. This is why the timeline's needed, because they're suggesting things that may not be feasible. What I'm saying, so we've got these two issues of timeline and feasibility, right, and content, right? Now the difficulty here is if we go for an optimistic timeline, which we then don't make because of just reality doesn't allow you to do it, right, in terms of putting up governance actions, etc., then you've basically either put too much pressure on the development team, or you've cut features out you could have potentially had if you give them more time. So the first thing is to have a realistic timeline of how much it can enact, and so that we know that, okay? Because basically people keep on focusing on this end event, but actually it's, as we keep on saying, if this was to happen, we should be forking a new node this at the end of this month in 2 weeks' time, a workable node, right?
But that,
And everybody's arguing about time, and I'm just saying, look, guys, once you sat down and tell us why this reasoning is wrong, and then because then they should be concentrating on when they can get the workable system on in the node.
yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah, I'm just saying, I don't know how we can make a decision because actually we can't even check that the decisions are being made. So I can't. How they're asking us to rubber stamp something, which I can't even work out where to hit it. Right?
Yeah. No. I promised to raise it. But for the reasons you're proposing, it does look as if it's something we couldn't endorse. We just don't have enough.
And I think we can't endorse it because actually we can't make logical sense of what's being proposed.
No.
In terms of timing and scope.
Yeah, and the Hard Fork Working Group is considering this, Ryan. So there are regular meetings. The scope will be refined in time. But there is this huge tension set between an early hard fork and the scope that's desired. Okay.
So I think it becomes extremely important for somebody, right? And I don't like the Hard Fork Working Group, please, to tell us the timescales, because they're the ones that have the experience, right? We have experience too, but they're the ones that have the contemporaneous experience. Okay.
Yeah. But the first priority for the Hard Fork Working Group is to determine sensible scoping. And
actually, I would say the first priority is to determine sensible timelines, right? Because then those are because the timelines define the scope. You can't do one before the other, because if you define scope, then you've got to allow time to expand, right? So I say get the timing right, because that represents the minimum timing from A to B. And therefore at A, the scope is decided at A, not at B, right?
Yeah. So I suspect with the proposal the product committee is putting in, it's just looking at the timelines, it's unlikely there would be a 26 hard fork. So even with the scope they're putting in, it's unlikely to happen in 26, which then means that we're looking for at roughly this time next year for a second hard fork that will bring in linear layers. Okay, so that wouldn't be a very good outcome, I suspect.
My opinion, my thoughts process here is, until you accept the realities of your constraints, you won't be able to find a solution, because you need to know what you can't change, right? And what I just get this feeling that everybody is wishing. There's far more wishing and aspiration than reality at this point.
Yeah, we need to inject some realism into it. Martin, you've
obviously videoed yourself. You wanted to say something?
No, it just started to work. And I was surprised. So
okay. So let's make, for the recording, let's be clear here. What I'm saying here is you can't, the thing you can't manipulate is the timing of these things. There are a set of steps. There will be mistakes, and there will be you need a bit of slack in that schedule, right? The idea that you can somehow wish the schedule shorter, that is not likely. It doesn't happen. Doesn't matter. This is the nature of scheduled events and complex systems, is that time is the thing you can never get back, right? But and that's not us being pains in the arse. It's actually us saying this is reality. Accept reality, and then do the best inside it, as opposed to wish reality was different. That way lies madness.
Great. Okay, so a couple of other things relating to the Dijkstra scope. One is we've received a letter of support from the Civics Committee for SIP 151. Ryan, do you want to
I'm going to disappear. Okay, at this point. Okay.
Thanks, Neil.
Thank
I don't have the document up right now, but I read through it last week. I was a bit confused because it seems to be a conflation of two different SIPs. Let me see if I can pull it up so I'm not making it up.
I've attached it in the chat. So this is on-chain
the connection
registration.
thing. There it is.
Yes, this is the on-chain registration for stake pools.
Yeah, so they're talking about on-chain registration for stake pools, and at some point they start talking about a different SIP, or either actually they commented on it on the stake pool hot credential SIP, which is one that I wrote. But the TLDR of it is they're basically seeking the TSC's endorsement and sounds like advocacy for including it in the Dijkstra era hard fork, which it seems everybody's got their piece they're trying to get into the Dijkstra hard fork, which is which is fun, but yeah. So the document's there for our I guess endorsement or not.
Yeah. So the advantage of this SIP is that it allows easier voting by SPOs, correct? Right.
Okay, so now I remember the confusion. So it says on-chain registration for stake pools Calidus key. So the Calidus key is not a thing that the ledger is aware of. It's a completely off-chain concept. So when we wrote the other SIP, which is I think 175, which is the one I was working on, to introduce a hot key that SPOs can use to vote on government actions, it is basically a replacement of the Calidus key, but something that is the ledger is aware of, so that SPOs can vote on governance actions using not their cold keys. It seems like that's what they're talking about in this SIP, but they're also talking about SIP 151, which is on-chain registration for stake pools. And I forget the exact measure of that one.
Ken Eric is on the call. I just realized that.
I'll
So,
let him.
yeah. I would say that's a better way.
Let's invite Ken Eric to speak to us. Can we add Ken Eric to the call?
Wait. We need to make him a contributor, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm finding this
Done.
SIP that we hide people from the call is actually more confusing than not, Bosco.
I agree. But
There he
we
is.
can wait offline.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, the key thing is the product here is the key thing. So it whatever makes stake pool operators easier vote without dragging out the cold keys. That is like the desire from beyond minimum viable governance. We looked at Martin Lang's Catalyst keys and realized that they could not be seen on the ledger perspective. So going back and forth with Alexi, and I'm going to bring this up this week's civics committee. SIP 175 is the most feasible way to ease the task for SPOs to participate in governance. It's a longer road. It requires certificate scoping and stuff like that, and that pushes our desire out of Dijkstra, and it's also a funding issue as well.
So the Calidus keys, they're off-chain. They don't need any hard fork. Is that correct?
Yeah, Catalyst keys. Well, what we wanted, like the general idea was to create a link with the Catalyst keys to the pool ID on the ledger. But it's not feasible to implement what is it called, STS rule, to look into that in the metadata. So you have to go the certificate route.
Yeah, I think SIP 175 started out being the same thing as what Ken Eric is describing. We're trying to get the ledger to recognize Calidus keys, but it would be weird to have it in the metadata, the ledger recognizing it that way. It's much more complex to have the ledger do that. So the more robust way is to actually introduce the certificate change, which is what SIP 175 was amended to be. So that would be the correct route, but it's also more work.
Yeah, and there's also a more secure approach as well on top of that.
But it did get the rubber stamp from a few people on the Ledger team, so I think it's feasible. It's just a lot more work than what is likely to make it into Dijkstra.
Yeah, and it needs new era support, Ryan. Is that correct?
It's a good question. I don't think it has any new parameters, but it is a new certificate. Does a new certificate need a new era? I think it might. I'm not sure though. Or an updated field to the existing pool certificate.
Alexi is better to explain this, but you need
Yeah,
a new SPO hotkeys certificate regime, and that touches on several parts, moving parts in the SPO calculation of voting power and so on, so on.
Yeah, it's also worth mentioning there's some side effects to this, which are probably positive, just so that people can be aware of, is that it allows you to, a hotkey would allow you to register multiple pools to one key. So if I own 10 pools, I can have one hotkey to do vote on all 10 of those pools, which is a very big convenience thing. It also allows for script credentials. So you can now have SPO multi-sig voting. So if I have a custodian or something and I want multiple people to sign off on the vote, you can now do that. And then the other thing is it technically allows for an SPO to delegate their vote to another SPO, but it requires permission from both parties. So it's basically SPO DREPs is what it was discussed. But there was also, most people don't think that there's a downside to that based on the discussion, and it seems it's a reasonable thing to have.
Yeah, and from like the beyond a minimum viable perspective, so that is where this is coming from. So we see a solid decline in SPO participation in governance, which is bad. And from the data that we gather from several workshops and surveys and stuff like that, it wasn't. We thought initially that SPOs didn't want to, let's say, bother themselves with governance, but it's actually the opposite. It is the friction of bringing forward the cold key credentials. That is the friction, and the purpose here is to remove that and make it like a feasible experience to be a SPO and participate in governance, like you can connect your wallet or like. I even wanted is desirable to even have this direct mnemonic into a ledger, for example, as well. It's not a requirement, but that would basically give you the same user experience as SPO participating in governance as a DREP.
Yeah, so I can't see any reason why we would not support this, Keneric. It seems to be positive. Obviously, somebody has to implement it, and the key question is going to be over timing. Is there enough time to include it in the Dijkstra era hard fork or not? So is the resource available to do the implementation? Is the will to do that? And then will it be done in time?
It's a twofold problem as far as I've recognized from the dialogue with the Ledger team. The most important one is funding, and secondly, it's going to take at least I think it's what 6 months. Like if we started yesterday,
Yeah.
So it's not feasible for the Dijkstra hard fork next one coming up.
It is worth following up to see if it can be added in intra-era hard fork, though.
Exactly, because then maybe it can't be added in Dijkstra, but it can still be added as quickly as
Dijkstra+1.
assuming the effort is assuming the funding and effort is available to do the implementation. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, thank you so much to the technical steering for looking into this and helping navigating this from like a civic perspective. So I hope we can get some funding for this as well.
Yeah, so somebody needs to apply to do the work. Somebody with skill set to do the work. Keneric. If the Ledger team doesn't have capacity, then it won't be them in the short term. Okay, but if someone else can do the work in the short term, then it could be progressed fast.
I don't know. This is probably not your field of expertise, but Do you have any good ideas on like which way to move on to get financial resources for this?
The best way would be to wait for the next funding round, Ken-Erik, and to present a set of priorities, community-related priorities of funding. It depends how much. I mean, 6 months' work sounds relatively heavyweight, right? So it's possibly not something that could be done within the current NCL, even if people did have the effort available.
This could, I mean, I hate to say the RFP word, but this could be potentially be something that ends up being like that when, if we have asked the community what they want in the next hard fork and they vote on the top things and this ends up being one of the top things, it could just cause an implementer to jump out of the shadows and submit the treasury withdrawal to implement it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly an RFP, because with an RFP, you're saying here is the exact project.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but not completely.
Yeah, but it's priority driven.
Exactly.
Is the point which we need to move towards. We need to move towards identifying the priorities of the community has and letting those get bubbled up so people can rationally decide between the different priorities, and then we can pick them up. People can pick them up for implementation. Yep, 10 minutes left. Good. So I'm seeing the whole scoping issue to resolve, right? This is not something we're going to solve overnight, but we will get next week. We will get the IO team leads input into that. There was one other issue, SIP 50 status, Ryan. So I know you've been progressing that.
Yeah, so I've been, so this is one of the things we've been fighting hard for, to try and see if we can get it into the Dijkstra hard fork, because it really only touches the rewards calculation, which should not conflict with basically all the other stuff other than SIP 23, which also only touches rewards calculation. So in theory, there shouldn't be any conflicts there. But I've been working with Jared Cordovan, who is the original person who implemented the rewards calculation of Haskell node, and he has completely finished the SIP 50 implementation for rewards calculation changes, the governance guardrails, the parameter plumbing, and all the tests are passing. And that pull request is was added to the ledger repo last night. So that is available. The only work that remains is the integration with consensus. And of course, we need approval. I mean, we need coordination with whoever's working on the release for the node version that will be in Dijkstra. But that work is complete. And it seems to be, from what I can tell, the high code quality as well.
Yeah, well, I'd expect it coming from Jared.
He's well respected.
What is SIP 50, Ryan? Do you want to tell us what it is? Because all these numbers.
Yeah, so SIP 50, I guess the easiest way to explain it is stake that is eligible for rewards right now is currently a minimum of how much stake you actually have and what the saturation cap is. And the saturation cap is defined by the K parameter. So SIP 50 adds a third minimum. So it's this minimum of those two things, but the third thing is the new L parameter times your pool's pledge.
Okay, yes.
So basically, if you will have, if you don't have enough pledge relative to your stake, you could have some oversaturated effects, which you'll still produce blocks for that oversaturated stakes, but your rewards will be limited.
Yeah, so this is increasing the value of the pledge.
Exactly.
Okay, so it encourages people SPOs to acquire more pledge, and gives additional Sybil resistance or not, right?
Yeah, Sybil resistance, it raises the min aggregate pledge, which is a weird way of measuring, I guess it's the other side of the coin from the Nakamoto coefficient. Basically, the Nakamoto coefficient is the fewest number of entities that have to pull off a stake-based attack. The minimum aggregate pledge is the cheapest cost to pull off a stake attack. So they're two sides of the same coin. So it'll directly increase the cheapest cost of an attack. So there's definitely some Sybil benefit to be had there. And also it'll make pledge more valuable, which is something that SPOs have been speaking about for some time.
Great. Okay, so I'm quickly looking through the rest of the agenda. Cake was on 1000. There's going to be a discussion tomorrow at the Parameter Committee, so we can come back to that next week. post quantum crypto, we've received a report from the IO cryptography team. I'd suggest we come back to that next week. I think Alex Moser, he's interested in that. Alonso is interested in that, and Christian likewise. So why don't we bring that onto the agenda next week for discussion? And otherwise, there are a couple of housekeeping issues. So please remember to vote on the Intersect bylaws if you haven't already done so. Monthly ISC meeting. I'm not going to be able to make Monday's meeting, but Christian, will you be able to do that?
I should have availability the first 45 minutes to be there, and then I'll have to drop.
Right. Thank you. So if you can just update the ISC and bring if any TSC members have questions or issues they want to raise with the Intersect board, we can raise them. Please pass them on to Christian, and Christian can raise them during that meeting. Okay, so the only other item that I'd included on the agenda was the Wanchain incident. And so again, this is basically for information. So the Wanchain has unfortunately been attacked by persons unknown. The effect of this seems to have been that a contract that was set up about 2 years ago has contained a vulnerability. So this is information which is available publicly. I'm not going to give any secret information here. So apparently there was a vulnerability in a contract that was developed 2 years ago. The effect of this has been that 515 million Night tokens have been drained, and that's had a negative effect on the Night price. I think it might have bounced back afterwards, fortunately. But there has been this unfortunate issue following on from SecondFi. It's concerning that people are going around. We're aware of other issues, other attacks also progressing. Ryan, you've brought our attention to other things that could be going on. So the attack seems to have been contained at this point in time. We need to watch out for Wanchain making any further announcements. My understanding is they've temporarily suspended operation, as have MinSwap, and will provide further information as it becomes available. The Security Council is monitoring this and helping to coordinate any response. But the attack unfolded very quickly within 3 or 4 transactions, is my understanding, and it may not be possible to trace the funds. We will provide any information that we have as it becomes available. Any questions? Any other items of business? So thank you everyone for your time today. The Dijkstra scope is going to become something that plays out. Hopefully we can get this resolved fairly quickly. But so there's clear tension between timing and scope at this point in time, and that needs to be resolved. We may have to step in and adjudicate on it. Thank you everyone, so I'll see you all very shortly.
Take care all.
Thank you, guys. See you.
Take care.